So like I said before, in honor and celebration of Women's History Month, we really wanted to do a panel of female entrepreneurs, like women who are really forging their own paths, going into business for themselves, because as you know, the economy is doing a big one these days. And a lot of people are considering entrepreneurship as a career path, like really going into business for themselves and really figuring out what their passions are. And so we really wanted to curate a group of women who are doing just that. So you can be inspired if you are an aspiring entrepreneur or a current entrepreneur looking to level up or shift your perspective, just to have a real conversation about what that entails. And hopefully you leave feeling even more inspired to take your business, your craft, or your talent more seriously because we need more women. We need more women forging their own paths and making decisions and creating and doing all the things. So thank you so much for being here again. And without further ado, I really want to introduce our panelists because I love them and I'm so excited to share this conversation with them. So in no particular order, I'm just going to pick on Erica to start. Just your name, your company, if applicable, or what you do, a little bit about what you do.
Awesome. Okay. Well, my name is Erica Dale. I am an interior designer working for myself, Erica Dale Interior Design. I'm also an freelance in-house interior design expert and content writer for Hunker, which is like an online shelter publication as well. So I do some writing and I do some design.
Hi, my name is Aria Lomack, and I am the owner and founder of 12 AM Co., an online shoe store for women. We really serve women of all sizes and all ages, from slippers on up to boots, mules, any kind of shoe style we provide. And I'm based here in LA.
My name is Felicia Henderson. I'm the Chief Creative Officer and founder of Creative Consulting Agency. I have been in business since 2018, and I am from Cleveland, Ohio. So shout out to my Midwest people. I'm also based in Los Angeles, and I primarily service the entertainment industry, fashion, retail, but really just at the intersection of creativity and design.
Hi, ladies. Good morning or good afternoon. I am Priscilla Estrada. I am the co-owner of San Fernando Fitness. I also am the co-founder of Las Palmas Media. I currently am sitting on the board of the San Fernando Chamber of Commerce, the Downtown San Fernando Mall Association. My gym has been in business for 13 years. Being in an independent city like San Fernando, where we have our own city council, police department, etc., throughout the 13 years, I've gotten very involved with my community in my city. And that's what eventually led into Las Palmas Media, where I am the creator of the San Fernando podcast. And I saw the need and support for my community to support them through media and support. We are predominantly Latino-based community, so a lot of mom and pop shops, and just helping them, supporting them, bridging the gap. My specialty is in women's health. I do specialize in women's health on one-on-one with clients. Everything that I'm doing with my platform, I am reinvesting it back into not only my gym, but also into the media company. So thank you for having me.
Hi everyone. I'm Bonnie. I'm a lot of things, but primarily I'm a makeup artist for TV and film. I've worked across the board with so many celebrities, and I'm actually on set right now for a show, which is crazy that they'll let me step away for an hour. We were about to start shooting, but I also work with various nonprofits as a speaker. I speak about my journey and just so much adversity that I had to overcome. I'm very passionate about young people specifically. I think that you are capable and able to do anything you want. You just have to have the right heart posture for it. And I think the gates will open. So that's a little bit about myself. And I'm excited to be here with you all.
Thank you, everyone, so much. And as you can see, this is a very diverse group, not just in like race and ethnicity, but diversity of thought and industry. And I did that on purpose because I know this is the Entertainment Alliance, but I really wanted to drive home the point that if you have an idea or a particular passion, like literally the opportunities are limitless. Like literally the world is our oyster, right? To that point, I just asked the panelists, I want to try and get through as many questions as possible. Like we would love to be here forever, but obviously we only have an hour and we want to get to into the Q&A at the end, which we will have. And if you're new to the panels, how we do Q&A is you private message me directly towards the end. I will let you know when the floor is open for questions, and I will ask them directly. So the first question that everyone really wants to know is like, why did you decide to go into business for yourself? I think the why is so important, and there's power in stories. So what was a pivotal moment that you were like, okay, like the time is now. Like, I want to go into business for myself.
This is Ariel again. Hi. So, for me, what made me go, well, it's a whole journey. So I went to San Francisco State, so we're CSU as well. But I moved to Los Angeles and I started working with a stylist here in Los Angeles. I didn't have I didn't have any contacts, any connects. I really was just out here trying to like figure it out, like super young in my early 20s, just trying to figure my way out in life and just in the world. And I ended up working with her. I think my idea of success was just completely different um, from what it was supposed to be. And so as I started working with her, she was like, no, I'm going to teach you the meaning of like true hard work. Like you're going to really like get it. You're going to really earn it. And so as I started working with her, like she started to see like, oh my God, this girl has this crazy work ethic. Like I can be in at 6 in the morning and leave out at 1 at night. And again, like I didn't know anybody. I knew her and she like really put me in the LA streets and like I got to know like all of the showrooms, all of the company, just all of the things like LA. And she was like, honestly, honey, she was like, you have what it takes to like start your own business. Like there's a ton of things like happening with social media. This was when like Revolve was popping off. And everything was just happening on social media with Instagram specifically. She was like, you need to really like start your own business. You should really look into that. Like, I think you have what it takes. And I'm just like, okay, well, I've always wanted to like do something on my own. I just really didn't know what it was. And she was just like, I think you should start like doing research and just figuring it out. And then for me, it was just like, okay, well, what are your interests? I'm interested in shoes. I've always been interested in shoes. I've always went to go find the flyest shoes. And so as I like just started to gather more information, I was just like, okay, this is exactly what I'm going to do. I've always like in the back of my mind has always been about like chasing your destiny. Again, like I come from Oakland, so I don't know anything. I don't have any connects in the industry. I came out here to just, figure it out. And I feel like just who I am, it made sense. And it's just like building on top of that, just compound building and learning and applying, meeting more people and just getting deeper into what I'm doing. And so it's just like, for me, it was something that was in me that other people saw and that really helped like mold that, which was helpful. So then it wasn't like it was a bright idea in my head. It was something that someone else saw in me and was just like, hey, honey, like, I think this would be great for you. And she was right. And so I found my way. And I've also too worked in production. I actually work with a production company right now. I worked as in commercials and I've also worked in event marketing. So everything just kind of like meshed together when it came to doing the shoes. So it was perfect. I think it was just alignment in my life and timing. Um, but yeah, that's how I ended up being an entrepreneur.
I think entrepreneurship, I think it's just in you. And so I always was a professional rebel. I never really liked working for people. I never was one to kind of like follow the rules or all the rules. So I think I became like a serial entrepreneur. As I think most of you may have tried things that have failed or may have just tried to just execute a creative idea, because I know for a lot of times you're looking for jobs, the perfect job with your perfect interests and your perfect gifts. And sometimes it's hard to get those opportunities. It's extremely competitive. So I just decided to create the opportunities that I wanted to see. So that first started with doing a product line of jumpsuits. I had a brand called November Noir. I actually remember Ariel. We used to do pop-ups together in LA. So she's been in the game for a very long time. So shout out to you. It's been wonderful to see her grow and just be along and sit on this beautiful panel with you guys. But yeah, I think it's just, trying and failing and trying to figure it out. But I realized my calling was I needed to help the people around me sustain their business. And so because my background was in business, I went to Howard University, shout out to HU. I was working for all these Fortune 500 companies, top talent agencies. And I was just like, I need to help the community that like needs me. And so I just wanted to be able to pick my own clientele. I wanted to be able to come in and make recommendations. I didn't want to get into a lot of the drama of the work life. And when you work, you know, if you're at a great job, that's great. But sometimes, you know, environments can impact you a lot. So I just decided to start my company similar to Ariel. I was pushed by a mentor to just like do it. And I did the paperwork. I think I did everything on LegalZoom. And next thing you know, I was getting calls for opportunities overseas. I got opportunities, really dope opportunities in LA. And I just continue to put myself out there, articulate my gifts, and I get the calls. So that's how I think I arrived at entrepreneurship. But I do believe it's in you, and you just have to have like the tenacity to stick with it.
That's so good. I'll go next. My story is a little bit all over the place, to be quite honest. I have been working for myself for a decade now. Prior to that, I became a mom very, very, very young. I was in middle school. And so having the time to spend with my kids has always been a challenge. And when I finally stepped out and started freelancing on my own and looking for jobs on my own, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't scary. It was absolutely terrifying. But I realized how much more time I had, not only to spend time with my family, but also to do other things that I love. So I accidentally fell into makeup. I was asked by a friend who needed her credits for IMBD. This was like 14 years ago. And she was doing a film with the Queens of Comedy. I'd never done makeup in my life. I'd never held a makeup brush for anybody else. I'd done makeup for myself, but nothing else. And she's like, could you go do this for me? You won't have to do much. All you have to do is like a little touch ups. There's another makeup artist on set. I said, no, absolutely not. I'm not going to do it. But I was in school. I was in school for journalism. I was in school for creative writing and directing. Those were my passions. Storytelling overall is my my passion. I love people. I love people's stories. I feel like your story sets somebody else's story free. So anyway, long story short, my friend Savvy tells me to go on set. So I go on set, terrified. Talk about fake it till you make it. And I don't know if you know about makeup, but like it's one thing to do makeup on yourself, but makeup for Black women, you better come ready, honey. So so I remember sitting there and they're like, oh, you're gonna do, this person's makeup. Oh my God, I thought it was touch-ups. I didn't know it was makeup, actual makeup. But I did it. I like got through it and I fell in love with being behind the scenes. I fell in love with the process. I was watching everyone. It was like I had already worked at Paramount Studios, so being behind the scene was not new to me, but being part of the process, like creating a character and then that person presenting on screen, it was just something like the gates open and I was just so enamored with the behind the process, that behind the scenes process that was happening. And I remember the producers came back to me and they were like, yo, you have really good set etiquette. Do you want to come back next weekend? We're shooting something else. I promise you, I will not tell you what that was, what project that was, because that makeup was horrible, I think, in comparison to now. But the fact that these people said I was good on set, I don't know. I was like, okay, this is a good part-time gig. Meanwhile, I get through school. And it was, yeah, that project opened up the next project and the next project. And before you knew it, same. I've traveled the world with my work. I've been able to create my own schedule. I get to work with other companies, and it allows for me to spend that time with my family. So for me, like there is no other way. I will do this till the day I die. And I love working for myself. We'll talk about the challenges later, but no, the amount of challenges in comparison to the reward for me specifically, I do it all over again. So
my name is Erica Dale. And so I got into interior design. Again, my path was a little bit windy to get there as well. So I actually started in the entertainment industry in post-production. and was working at a post-production facility for several years. And in the process, started a blog for kind of interior design, DIY type stuff back when blogs were like the thing to do. And I kept that up for like 5 years and I loved it. And I remember I was laying awake one night in my bed at like 3 a.m. and I thought like, I'm not happy. I'm not happy with what I'm doing. And I don't know what it is I want to do. I thought this was it when I was 18 or 20 or whatever, when I was in college. I thought this was my path. And I'm here and I'm 5 years in or however long it was at that point, and I'm not where I want to be. And this is not what I want to do. And if I could close my eyes right now and picture exactly what I wanted to do with my life, what would that be? And all that came to me in that moment was like all of this stuff I'd been doing creatively for fun because I loved it. I was like, wait a minute, that's actually a career. People actually get paid to do that. So, if anybody that knows me would be unsurprised by this, but by the next morning, I was online researching interior design programs to go back to school to learn the ropes. And so I ended up back at the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising for like a quick 1-year program out there for people who already had degrees, to sort of get the quick and dirty interior design extravaganza all in one go. So I just sort of had an epiphany in the middle of the night when I realized like this path isn't from where that what I'm doing right now is not the path I want to stay on. And if I could just do whatever I wanted, what would it be? So that's how I got into interior design. I was 26 when I went back to school. So it was like a year and change program. And then I hit the ground running working for an interior design firm in Los Angeles, which was great. And I was able to sort of learn the ropes from people who have made the mistakes before, for people who, and in interior design, mistakes are really expensive. So to learn how to not make those mistakes on your own dime was extremely valuable. I also just worked for an incredible human being who taught me so much and was just such a great mentor. As many of these women have said, that that's a huge deal when you find someone that carries you like that and nurtures your talent. And so then I had my first child, and I decided that that was the perfect time for me to gain some flexibility, work from home, sort of create that life-work balance that so many people talk about, right? And so I started working for an e-design company where basically, because I didn't have my own portfolio, you can't really send out somebody else's work and say like, look what I helped with. So that was the challenge for me at the first, was like, I want to do this. I want to jump out on my own, but I have no portfolio. I have no contacts. I have no clientele. Like, you're starting from the ground up. So for me, it was a great opportunity to partner with a company that did so much of that legwork for me. So basically the way it works was that they would feed me clientele, and I could just tell them I have X amount of hours per week that I can devote to this. And that way I'd have plenty of time to really take care of my clients. I could build my own portfolio. Everything was under my own branding. So it was great because I could just build my business. But they were feeding me more work than I could even, that I even needed. And it was amazing. It was just such a wonderful partnership for me to get my feet, on the ground and start running, which was really cool. So I did that for a long time. And then I relocated from Los Angeles to Nebraska, which is where I am now. And when the pandemic hit, I started working again for a full-time design firm. So I'm actually about a year out from working there for 4 years, which during a really tumultuous time, especially in the interior design industry, I was really lucky to have a steady job and great projects and amazing clientele. But I always had that itch to go back to working for myself and regain that flexibility and that creative control and that sort of those building blocks that I had sort of set into place. I kept having an itch to come back to that. And so a year ago, I decided that it was time. I had my second kid while I was working my full-time job, and that was extremely challenging. So I decided he's only out of school for like a couple more years, and I just wanted to be able to have a better balance that I designed myself, basically, for the next couple of years in sort of this transitional period that I'm at right now. So I actually found the opportunity doing some more writing. So I kind of went back to my blogging days, found the opportunity with Hunker to work, basically 20 hours a week steady, which is awesome. So it's like reliable income for my family. So I sort of set up these partnerships as I went to be able to have full creative control and full, under my own branding and my own clientele, but to sort of create an inflow of clients and a steady work when maybe the industry is, up and down and that kind of thing. So I ended up here, and it's something I can build as I go, which is really exciting. So when my time is more mine, then I can build it at the pace that works for me. So that's really exciting.
Awesome. I'll go next. So I have been in the industry for 13 years, and just like all the ladies have expressed, mine has definitely been a journey. It's one thing to start a business from scratch. It's a whole other concept when you take over and rebrand it yourself. So 13 years ago, my uncle, who's my father's youngest brother, who's more like a brother to me, he's the one who actually started the gym. I've been involved since the very inception, did every inch and every corner of the business, managed it, run it. And about 8 years ago, I had some investments and was able to take over the business. And for me, I was raised by both of my grandmothers who actually owned businesses. So growing up, I actually thought that women owned businesses because of them, not knowing going into a male dominated industry, specifically white male dominated industry, walking into rooms where I've been the only minority, one of the only women. Thank God for my grandmothers who gave me the confidence to walk into these rooms because I always felt like I belonged. And I am very, very grateful for the mentors that I've had along the way, and the support that I've had with my family. In the beginning of my fitness journey, I thought I knew everything, and I knew that, oh, one day I'm going to take over the business. And it took 8 years longer than I anticipated. But during that transition, I definitely was seeking more personal development, going to courses, doing certifications, and I'm obsessed with everything that has to do with not only health and wellness, but also business. And then the pandemic happened, and I saw the need of the support for my community. And with all the initiatives and everything that I've done with my business, now I'm able to be out more on the streets, connecting with local businesses, while I have my team back at the gym, holding down the fort. So yeah, thank you so much, ladies, for having this. This is so awesome, and I'm excited to continue hearing everyone's stories.
Thank you, ladies, for sharing so much. And as you can see, so many different paths. I think still in 2025, we're thinking there's a formula to things. Like, if I do this, this, and this, it'll equal this. And like, no, not at all. Right. And so that's why I always love starting with that question, because hopefully it like resonates with you in some way, and I think a common denominator is really risk. Everyone talked about like taking a risk. That's what entrepreneurship is and will continue to be. Right. So with that, I don't want this to be entrepreneurship is so amazing. We talk about all the positives, right? Because it's hard. And I hear a lot of people, I don't know if you guys had the same experience. I hear a lot of people, they're like, I want to be an entrepreneur because I want to make my own money, which is a valid reason, right? But it can't be the only reason, And so I want to talk about, it's a two-parter, very briefly, what have you found the biggest rewards to be of entrepreneurship, but also simultaneously the biggest challenges of entrepreneurship? And keep it real.
I can take this one. What did you say, Shari? Last part?
I said, keep it real.
Oh, I'm gonna keep it real. So real. So real, guys. So a little backstory. I actually I didn't know that I wanted to be an entrepreneur until maybe my 20s. I always knew that I would do something I don't, maybe you guys out there, the participants of this call, feel like you're called to something big. You feel in your spirit, you feel just like there's something in me. And, I don't push my faith on anyone, but in my faith, I really feel like God really, really, really like put in my heart as little as 5, 6 years old. I knew that I was called to, like shine a light for others. And having that heaviness, I would say, throughout like my childhood, even when I was a teenager, like, well, what is it? What am I gonna do? So I started off going to school, and I started studying journalism, and I started taking classes in creative writing, which is actually how I met Shari. She used to be she used to be yeah, kind of like my what would you say you were, Shari?
The best mentor friend in the world.
Love her so much. And I truly, truly love the art of storytelling. And now at 35, I can tell you that you can do that in so many ways, right? There's not just one way to tell a story. There's so many ways to tell a story. All these women here literally are telling you how they're telling stories, right? Even Erica in interior design right now, she is, when she designs something, she is coming up with a story, a color palette, something that says who this person is, right? So I always knew that that was in me, and I love doing that. And when I stepped into makeup, I thought, well, this is just a part-time thing. What big difference am I making in the world? And how is this impacting others? And I started to meet the most phenomenal women, like the women who would sit in my seat, who would tell me about their founder story, the things that they were also going through. I was like, oh, this is a thread. Like women thread with each other. Obviously makeup is all inclusive for everyone, but specifically like the women I was meeting, I was like, oh, I'm obsessed with these women. I love these women. Like ever, I can't tell. I have countless hundreds of stories of people that I've worked with. And yes, I've worked with many, many celebrities, but my favorite girl is the founder. My favorite girl is the entrepreneur, because she believes that there is something that she has to bring out. And I believe in that with her. So I would say, like, the positive of my job is that I literally get to be part of someone's journey as she goes. And that can become addicting. And it does feed the thing in me that God put in me of like, you are called to do something. I still write, I still do other creative things. But when I get to be with like my girls who are about to step on set right now, when they hit action, I was part of her getting that confidence, being able to step in front of that camera and feel like a boss, right? Like when my clients come to me and they're like, I have a pitch for this show and I just want my makeup done so that I feel confident. I was part of that pitch. If she gets that show, yeah, she did it, but like I was part of it. So that's what keeps me, and that's what inspires me. And honestly, like just really, really gets me going, as you can tell. But that doesn't mean that my entrepreneurship journey is not challenging. I think right now is one of the most challenging times in our industry as a whole, the country as a whole, right? We are in a recession. On top of that, there was the writer strike, which really affected my work. And when that happens, you got to get creative. So yes, I am a TV and film makeup artist, and I do a lot of famous people, but can I do bridal? Of course I can do bridal. So let me pop up a website real quick. Let me put ads out. Let me do Yelp. There's so many spaces you can put your work on, and let me get other kind of work. Thank God for weddings. Weddings got me through 2 years ago. It was the way that I was able to put food on the table, pay for my bills, pay for things. There were times when there was no work. And yes, I had a high paid gig TV show, but then for 4 months I didn't work. So what happened? I had to take the 20 something $1,000 that I made on a TV show, and I had to save and get tight with it because nothing was coming up until later. And you don't know when later is. That's the other thing too. You don't know. You just have faith that it's going to happen. And I would say too, usually entrepreneurs are not just good at one thing. They're good at various things. You know what I mean? So I shared with you that I'm like a storyteller. So I get hired, right? As a freelancer. I teach how to make documentary filmmaking now because that's what I learned. And being on set, I kind of know what to do. That's a side job that I get to do. I take it because I know that makeup is not as consistent as it once was. But because I love it so much and I don't want to quit, I'm going to find creative ways to make it happen. Is this for everyone? Absolutely not. My daughter, she's 22, she detests my job. She does not like the uncertainty of entrepreneurship. She's going to be a registered nurse. She likes comfortability. She likes to know that she's going to get the same paycheck every 4 days. Her mommy's a little crazy. I can make it happen. I can make it work. that's okay. Like for me, I would much rather do this and really fulfill what God's called me to do than to go clock in a 9 to 5. And I'm not knocking people who do. I think that's great. I think that's beautiful. Not everyone's called to entrepreneurship. But if I did that, I promise you, it would be a slow walk to my grave. Like I could not, like I couldn't do it. I also have ADHD. Like I literally cannot do that. It's like pulling teeth. I'd be miserable. And yeah, there's a lot of financial challenges for me specifically, like I just mentioned, but the creative process of it all, again, like I said earlier, I would do it over and over. That doesn't mean there isn't tears. Oh, that's what I would say. Get yourself around other people who are similar to you, who also have that founder mindset, who also want to do something with themselves that is greater than, because then you won't feel crazy. If you're around a bunch of people who have regular jobs with very steady careers, I promise you, you're going to think that you're doing something wrong. But if you get around some creatives and you get around some people who want to do this too, it will help you. It will help you, like even just like plant yourself in a community that you know you can go to. And when you talk about like, girl, I don't know how I'm gonna pay this rent next month, she understands or he understands because they're on that journey too. You know what I mean? And everybody jump. You know how many congratulations I get, but they weren't congratulating me back when I was struggling. They weren't congratulating me when I was open about my struggle. They congratulate you when you make it there. So okay, I'll stop talking.
So what I would say is for me as a consultant and working with other people, the biggest reward is bringing out the gifts in others and really being able to shine a light onto them. As Bonnie was saying, Bonnie was preaching. Okay, let's give Bonnie a round of applause. I was like, yes. But also just being able to like creatively solve problems, I think is like really good because I think people sometimes they don't really achieve their gifts or their highest potential because there's different blockers. And so one of those blockers as an entrepreneur obviously is like finances. You're always, I'm sure that's going to be like a common denominator. But you have to be able to again get creative, tap into all the gifts. A lot of us as entrepreneurs are multi hyphenates. So I also love storytelling, Bonnie. So yes, do that. But yeah, tapping into all the gifts. I think you're able to take more risk depending on where you're at and what season of life you're in. I'm a new mom, as some of you I think on the panel or some I think we share that. I've heard that across the board, but so now it's like my risk tolerance is a little bit different. However, you still have to believe in yourself above all things, and I think just being able to remove the blockers. And sometimes it's like I want to do that thing, but I don't have the money to do it. Well, the money will come, you know, but go ahead and create that opportunity for yourself and continue to pursue it. And that's what I would, that's just my short and sweet, like pros and cons.
I mean, I would absolutely agree with what Bonnie and Felicia said 100%. I mean, I think the biggest benefit that to me, I just think when you have that creative control to leap and do what fuels your heart, what makes your heart sing, what you really feel like you have, where your strengths lie, and be able to, for me, that's connecting with my clients. I love spending time with my clients. I love to get to know them. I love to know what makes them tick, because ultimately creating a space for them is so much like it has to be a reflection of who they are in that space. So my job is to get to know them, which I love because I love people. I've always loved getting to know people. I'm a people person. So it's just, to me, that's such a gift to get to know these people on such an intimate level. And then to give them the gift of their own oasis at home is just like somewhere to go to feel their best, which is just, to me, that's like just the best feeling. I love it. It's addictive. Like Bonnie was saying, like you get addicted to the feeling of being able to spread your gift and your love with the world. And I don't think you necessarily get to always do that in careers where you're living someone else's dream. So I think that that's what, you know, if you're spending 150% of your effort and 60 hours a week working for someone else's dream, it's a little bit different of a feeling than if you're doing the same for yourself. So I think that's, and obviously the flexibility and the ability to design, like Felicia was saying, I am a mom of 2 young kids. So whereas my risk tolerance, I love that, was definitely higher before. Now I'm like, okay, I need to make sure I have steady income coming in to at least a degree And then, so that's, I think, also what Bonnie was saying, being able to kind of diversify your talents when your sort of main path is either dry or it's kind of fluctuating too much, to be able to say, I have other talents. I'm a writer as well. So you know what? I will go teach other people about interior design and try to get them in my head and see what gets me passionate and excited and take control of their own spaces. So I think that being able to be flexible and just embrace every facet of your creativity and push yourself, knowing okay, I haven't been a professional writer before, but you know what, I can do it and I can learn it and I can rock it. Let's do it. So and just saying yes, when an opportunity comes, just being brave enough to say I believe in myself, I'm going to do it and I can do it. And there's not to say there's not going to be bumps along the way, and there's always a learning curve. But I think that gift of being able to just have free creative control and share your creativity and what makes you so excited with the world is absolutely the best part of being a freelancer or an entrepreneur. And 100%, I would agree that finances is the hardest thing about it. I think that my saving grace has been partnering with some of these companies that keep a steady flow of clientele and a steady flow of work coming, so I can depend on a certain level of income at any given time, but without relinquishing my creative journey and my creative process, which is really cool. And sometimes I have to pinch myself and be like, how did I pull that off? That seems not real. But I think, even so though, right now, the way that we've worked things out is I'm basically working 2/3 of an income. My husband's basically working 2/3 of an income so that we can spend more time with our kids while they're home for the next 2 years. So are we rolling in financial abundance these next 2 years? No. Are we getting by? Yes. And the beauty of it is, in a year and a half, when suddenly I have 6 hours a day to myself, I can build what I've started to put in place, the building blocks that I have designed so carefully to be there and to be flexible. I can just take and go, which is really exciting.
Awesome. I'll go next. I first want to share a story that when I finally took over the business, not even a month in, we got vandalized and our electrical system was vandalized and we were running on a generator for 3 months. I felt like I failed, and it was honestly one of the worst times ever being in business, and it only being 1 month in. And now anything that ever happens since then, I always take a moment and reflect back on that moment. And had it not been for our community, who was so supportive during that time, what's very rewarding, it really comes down to you defining what success looks for you first. Because if you don't define that first, then we're always going to feel like we're chasing something that we can never reach. And I share that because that's what I experienced early on. And knowing who you are first and your core values, your principles, your vision, your mission is so critical. I was very fortunate that I was in a program that actually supported me in early on in my first 2 years of being in business, and defining those core values and mission statement has been my moral compass. It's always supported me on the decisions that I make. And that's where the rewards start to come. And it's really true that if you love what you do, you really don't ever have to work a day in your life. And I know you're hearing our stories about our entrepreneurship, and there's also something called intrapreneur. So whatever industry that you are in, treat it as like your own. Take ownership of your position. I do know various friends who aren't necessarily business owners themselves, but they're in industries where they have grown as a brand within the brand. And now with the power of social media, there's so many opportunities now to whether if you're a nurse, you can get creative, and you can get creative and still create a side hobby, a business with that. And until you can leave your day job, then that side hobby eventually becomes your business. One of my very first I did work at a retail store in my early 20s, and that was the first and only. But I'll never forget that my manager said to me one day, and she said, "Never, uh, never leave a place on bad terms. And if you're not happy where you are at, what makes you think that you're going to be happy where you want to be?" And that stuck with me since then because I can't say that I love that job, but I treated that position and like if it was mine. And in a short period of time, I was 21 and I became assistant manager in a pretty quick time. But then I ended up leaving because I realized like it wasn't for me. So just want to share with you all that take a moment to really reflect on who you are as a person, and all the answers are start there. Thank you.
I feel like everyone really touched on a lot of the things that I guess we all feel. Of course, the reward for me and I feel like all of us is like, I feel like we kind of create the life that we want to live. So like I think it was Erica that said sometimes she has to pinch herself to see like, did she really do that? Like I've been in situations where I'm like, oh my God, like the things that I wrote down in my notebook, like I'm actually living these things when it was like so far ahead where I didn't even know if it was possible. So it's like those things are the huge rewards when you like come so far and everything is like on your back, all the sacrifice, all the discipline, all the late nights, all the missed meals, the missed activities, like you can't do everything that you want to do. Like I've lived that life where I'm sacrificing everything. And sometimes even now, like going through different motions with the business, but I think the most rewarding thing for me is like, oh my goodness, you literally like came here with $200 in your pocket, like, and you created this. Like, oh my God, like I'm getting chills right now. Like, I cannot believe this. Like when I was sleeping on a couch and writing my notes down before I went to bed and just like writing out my thoughts and my dreams and my goals, like didn't know which way that I was gonna go to achieve these things. And it's coming. I'm like, that's the biggest reward. Sometimes like even huge moments in the within the business that I have and everyone's congratulating me, it doesn't even feel like I'm like, okay, that's just another moment that we're gonna keep going through. But I think like the overall thing is like what my life looks like on the daily. Like what does that look like? I can have slower mornings. I can go take my daughter to school comfortably. I can cook her breakfast and I'm not rushing and waking up at the crack of dawn trying to rush to someone else's job. I'm doing something else for myself. I think for me, that's the most fulfilling thing ever in life. And just making your family proud and making people who didn't believe in you. And now they're your number one fans. Like I've had my dad, like, so again, I went to San Francisco State. My degree is in public health. And my dad was so mad that I moved to LA and like was like, I don't got nothing, but I'm about to figure this out. He was so mad at me. Like I would need money. Like, hey dad, can you send me $50? Like I need to get food. I need to get gas. And he's literally like, no, I'm not giving you nothing. Like you gotta like, you need to use your degree. Like, I don't know what you out there doing. And then like when I made him a believer, like it's making me emotional. When I made him believe like, oh my God, my daughter is like doing this. Like, I'm like, please just like give me time. Like, give me like a year or like 6 months. Sorry. I'm like, just give me some time. Like, I'm creating something that like no one's, I've never seen anyone do this. Like, please just like give me some time. Like, quit criticizing me, quit telling me what you want me to do. Like, allow me to do this. Like, I really want to do this. I feel it in my gut. Like something's gnawing at me at night. Like, I want to create this. Like, please just like give me time, give me space. And like, he was so pissed. But like, he gave me time and gave me space. And like, now he's like, my number one fan. Like that was like that's the reward, like granted like money and all those things, but it's like when the people who like just doubted you or just gave you the hardest time, like they're the ones that like, oh my God, like whatever you need, baby, like I got you, like whatever you need, I'm gonna make it happen for you. Like even if like 1 month, look, I might not be able to pay my car note, he like, all right, I got you, whatever it take, I'm gonna do an extra job for you so I can go pay your car note for 3 months or whatever it is. But just turning that around when someone's feeling so strong about like what you're doing and what you cannot do. That's very hard. Like when people are stuck in their ways, like especially like our parents, I feel like a lot of our parents are kind of like stuck in their ways and the way they go about life, the way they think. And I made him a believer. Like I fought him so hard, and like just now he's my number one fan. Like I got a text message from him today, like, "Hey baby, like I just hope you have a great day. Like I love you." But he was so strong and like not wanting me to do this. And I did it with everything in me. And those are the rewards for me. And granted, I have the same, like, the same stories as you guys, just being moms and having to adjust for the highs and the lows when it comes to being an entrepreneur. But I think the most rewarding thing is like shifting that. Oh, I didn't know that I was gonna cry, but yeah.
I didn't know I was gonna cry. No, but this is exactly like why we're doing this, because I think also too, like we're just a different generation of women. Like even not even 50 years ago, just think of the liabilities or the parameters or the boundaries that women had. We can even open our own checking accounts, and now women are starting their own businesses. And so that's why conversations like this are so crucial, because I'm sure you have so many aspiring entrepreneurs who are just afraid or fearful, all natural emotions, right? Like you're afraid or fearful, or you have our parents who come from a very different generation than we do. Like we are setting new trends, and we're trailblazers, and we're taking risks, and we want to feel fulfilled, and we want to be passionate. And women that came before us may not have had that luxury to put their passion first, So I just really appreciate your vulnerability, because there's just so much power in being vulnerable, because this is vulnerable work, y'all. Like entrepreneurship will gut you from the inside out. That's when you find out who you really are, right? And so just thank you so much for sharing that. And I hate that I can't get to all my questions, but I just want to ask a couple more questions. We do need to keep it short and sweet for the sake of times. I do want to be respectful of everyone's times. I told y'all an hour, and I will go for 4 if y'all let me, but we're not going to do that today. I just want to stress, if you obviously all 49 of you are here for a reason. And if you are an entrepreneur or you are thinking about, starting your own business, I think Priscilla said it best. It's pros and cons to each. And that's why knowing yourself and your why is so important, because there's pros and cons to working a 9 to 5 too. Like it's just whatever works for you. And I love the fact that these women are vulnerably sharing their stories, that you will begin to think about like what that could look like for you. So I will, before I ask these last 2 questions, I will open the floor. If you have questions, please private message me directly your question. I will ask it for you so I can get through as many questions as possible. Again, if you do not private message me, I will not ask it. So please PM me directly with your question. And before I get to the Q&A, very quickly, like for real, very quickly, I want to know 2 things. Have you ever experienced, because I'd be remiss without bringing this up, women still fall very short when it comes to male entrepreneurship in the United States. It's proven. We need more women starting their businesses. We need more women taking risks on themselves and putting their ideas and light into the world. So have you experienced any barriers in your particular industry being a woman? And then how do you overcome that? Like realistically, how do you keep going and stay motivated knowing that we're not really set up to be successful in some cases?
I'll go to it. I'll start because I did share briefly this earlier. Like I mentioned, when I got into this industry, I was definitely shocked going into events, certifications, or rooms where not just women, but also women of color, you don't see very much. For me, I am in a predominantly Latino-based community, and our culture too, culturally, that they call it machismo, and it is a thing. So early on, when I was training clients, I really struggled using my voice because I had to train men through strength training. That's my specialty. I had to learn how to use my voice. But the one thing that I started recognizing about myself is that I actually didn't know how to turn that off with women. So not realizing that my masculine energy was actually impacting my clients, when a gym is a scary place for women. So I actually, throughout the years, had to find myself and in my femininity in a male-dominated industry. And Sherry actually knows I'm obsessed with salsa. I'm a salsa dancer and I've been dancing for 8 years. And if it wasn't for salsa, I don't think I would ever have really found that voice. Um, and so I share that because I know a lot of us are walking into rooms not being aware of the energy that we're operating in, and being in a masculine energy, especially for women, really impacts our health on various ways because we're constantly living in fight or flight, chronic stress, chronic pain, and we're not really aware of why that is happening. When we do so good when it comes to empathy, compassion, and I have a mentor who has a book. It's called Graciously Assertive. So when us women know how to be gracious, but also know how to stand our grounds, is when we can show that we do deserve to walk into these rooms. Like I shared earlier, I am on a couple boards here in city of San Fernando, and for a long time, that most of those that were on the boards were men. And here we are, a group of women-owned businesses joining these boards. We're asking tough questions, and we end up finding out that the money has been mismanaged. And now, unfortunately, we're getting the short end of the stick. And now we have merchants and people coming out at us, accusing us of certain things. But it's so important to stand your ground as a group of women because together we do so well collaborative. And I will say because of that, we've been able to persevere some very big struggles with our community in the city. So more importantly, what I learned throughout this journey is that as women, we have to find rooms with other women because that is what's going to ground us, help us tap into that feminine energy so that we can continue to pour out from a full cup. So thank you, ladies. Great topics.
I could quickly say this.
Okay.
You would think that in my industry you wouldn't bump into that, but it happens all the time. You're always looking down upon by your male peers. Now, unfortunately, there is more education throughout social media, I feel like, for men about us women. And I've seen how my peers have changed. But yeah, there was a time where like you'd be on set. I mean, it's one thing to be a woman of color already, right? And like I remember one of my mentors telling me, you have two things against you. You are a woman and you are a woman of color. And at this time I was actually interning at Fox for the promo department. And I remember my mentor Scott, who Shari knows, he was like, sit at the table. And I didn't want to sit at the table. I wanted to be at the corner. I didn't want to be seen because I felt like culturally I had been taught like in certain settings it's better to be less than more, right? Like because you just kind of you're almost afraid that if you're seen you're going to get kicked out. It's crazy the mental battles that you have to go through as a woman. And I remember he's like, sit at the table, and I was like, no, I don't want to sit at the table. He goes, sit at the table. And I sat at the table, and I remember exactly what I thought was going to happen. All the men in the room literally could not believe that I was at the table with them. And that was like, I would say like, that's probably like 11 years ago. A lot has changed. But even in my industry now, like you step on to these jobs and you do have to almost like assert yourself. You do have to make it known that you're there. And you also have to teach sometimes, unfortunately, these men how to act, because even though there's HR protocol, they will break so many rules. Like, how many times I've had to deal with yeah, just really inappropriate behavior. And now I'm getting more comfortable speaking up about it and going to my upper heads about it. But there was a time like you couldn't really speak about it because you would be kicked off a job for it. And it sucked. So I do think and men don't have to go through that. I would never go up to a man and make him feel less than, you know what I mean? I maybe just by being there, but I wouldn't intentionally do it. So I think like it's important to yeah, just be aware of like the setting that you're in and how it's making you feel, and don't be afraid to stand up and speak for yourself, because you probably think that you're the only one and there's probably five other women saying the same thing. So it's always good to just be willing to be the one odd out, because you're probably not.
No, thank you. We have about 10-ish minutes for questions. Again, if you have questions, please send them to me directly. I know I said I was going to move on, but I have one more thing for the panelists. If you have any, because I believe in action items, if you have any resources for current or aspiring entrepreneurs, can you put them in the chat? Like, I know LegalZoom was mentioned for starting an LLC, or if there's certain forums or articles or organizations people should be looking into, or just general resources like this is helpful, what you need to know, this is what helped me. Can you please drop it in the chat? Because I want to make sure that when everyone saves the chat, because they're going to save the chat, when everyone saves it, that they have a tangible resource to reference later. So if you know anything and everything that would help aspiring women entrepreneurs, if you could put it in the chat, please, for later reference. Okay, really quick. I know, like we said, we need a part 2, man. This is like so great. I'm gonna jump to these questions. Please, please, please keep the questions brief. I'll allow 2 responses per question because I want to get through as many as possible. First question is, given entrepreneurship, how do you practice self-care? Woo, that's a good one.
You really have to be intentional. Like you have to like schedule it. You really have to schedule it. But I think also it's just taking those moments. Like I like to do a lot of meditation and deep breathing and breaths work. Because sometimes you don't have like an hour, 2 hours to go to the salon. And I know self-care has been like really trendy lately, but sometimes it's just like the little things that you can ritualize in your day. Sometimes it's just being able to have that cup of coffee that you like on a Friday. Sometimes it's being able to treat yourself to some skincare. That's been my new thing in my later 30s. And then I think also I would say allowing people say self-care, but I say allowing people to pour into you because a lot of times as an entrepreneur you are giving, giving, giving all the time. So any opportunity where it's just like, hey girl, I want to treat you to this, or hey, I wanted to speak a word into you. I was thinking about you today. Anytime you can just be on the receiving end, I think is also taking care of yourself as well and asking for help. I think that's also very difficult, but learn the art of asking for help, because I know I'm a very like independent person. But it's okay, like we all need help. Like, even to the tops of companies, executives, they need help. So, just not being afraid to advocate for yourself in those ways.
I would like to add on a brief stat. So approximately 70% of all chronic illnesses are found in women. And when we really dissect this stat, it starts to happen during our menopause, post-menopause years. And what the conversation that we're not having, especially as women, is protecting our wounds early on. And it starts in our 20s. It starts in when we're teenagers. And the one key difference about women and men is that we outlive our womb. Men can have kids till later on. So and women have to sleep at least 20 minutes more than men. But today, in today's world, women have kids, we have jobs, we have businesses. Everything comes first before. So if there's just one thing that I really want to encourage you to really hone down on is your morning and night routines. And thank you, Felicia, for talking about skincare, because my clients always say, well, how can I start to wind down? Or how can I start my morning routines? Like, do something for yourself, like your skincare, or read 10 pages, whatever that thing is dedicate that time and say, this is when my morning routine starts. This is when my nighttime routine starts. And whatever happens in the day, at least you conquered these 2 points of your day.
Thank you so much. I'm going to merge 2 similar questions, so it's kind of a 2-parter. Any tips on personal branding or how and where to start marketing your business, like social media, LinkedIn, personal branding, marketing, how, resources?
Social media is king for real. It doesn't matter. Like people focus too much on the numbers, but you'd be surprised how many companies that I partner with ask me for my social media handle. I have a website. No one asked me for my damn website. Everybody asks me for my Instagram and now TikTok, especially for the Gen Zers and the alphas. I think that you need to get comfortable being uncomfortable. If you don't want to be on camera, okay, fine, but you better build a really good brand.
online, and it doesn't have to be curate. It doesn't have to be perfect. The point is to just show up. Just show up. People actually would rather see you like see your like failing mistakes and everything like in real time, like how you're figuring it out, because back to storytelling, they want to support your story, they want to support you. You know how many products I buy? Talk about skincare. How many founders I buy their products, not because their products are good. I mean, they are, but it's because I love that person. I love their story. I love their backstory. So don't be afraid to show yourself. Show exactly what you're doing right now, how you're starting your LLC, how you're applying for a grant, how you're showing up, how you're doing a daily routine. I think more than ever, fortunately and unfortunately, because I know there's a lot of introverts, you need to be okay being online. You need to be okay branding yourself that way. I also pay for marketing. That doesn't work. You know what works the best? My social media presence. That is how I get work. That is how I push through. That's how people find me. So yeah, I mean, and it helps too, Yelp and all that stuff, but beyond that, I think it's social media. Social media is king. And with that, thank you so much for having me. Sorry, I love you, but I gotta go now.
Thank you so much. And really, really quick, I'll just piggyback off of that. We like when you talk about like having your brand out there and like networking and doing all of that, like relationship building is so key in this business. Like regardless if you have a 9 to 5, but especially in entrepreneurship. And I think a lot of times people are really focused on the product, as you should be. But at the end of the day, Bonnie hit the nail on the head. Investors or people are really investing their time in the person behind the brand. Okay. You can have a great product, but if they're not feeling you, the person, they're not going to want to be involved, So just keep that in mind, because I think a lot of people are so product, and they forget about themselves, like what they have to offer, what they bring to the table. So I just want to like put that out there. Anybody else want to talk about branding?
Wanted to add in. So I wanted to say, yes, of course, social media. And that's something like for myself, I'm even working at that as well, because I'm heavy into social media, obviously because of the brand, but I've always been the entrepreneur that kind of hides behind. And granted, I have my own relationships because I'm really in the field, but I think, of course, putting yourself out there a little bit more, and there's a fine line the way you can do that between your business and yourself, intertwining the two and building up a personal brand with your business. But one other thing that I didn't hear was LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is very good, especially when you're building your brand. It's very good for connecting with people at a different level. I know one thing now, like what I'm working on is like brand deals and things like that, beyond just the direct to consumer sales that I make. It's more so like now, okay, how can I align with brands and how can I align with bigger things? So it's like now it's like a LinkedIn play, like granted, we are on social media, we are on Instagram, and I get a lot of things through that, but I think LinkedIn is one of those platforms that everybody should start utilizing and getting familiar with too. Now that I'm just like out in the world and I'm like speaking to people on corporate levels, it's all about LinkedIn. So I would say LinkedIn as well.
I second that. We're at time. Since we do have a few more minutes, I'll just open up the floor. If you have any very brief, concise, general advice for entrepreneurs in general, like this stuck with me, like remember this, like just a tip to leave them with. Now's the time. We have like 2 more minutes.
I just have some super quick.
Go ahead, Erica.
Especially it's funny that we're talking about marketing and social media, because as I've gone on this journey, I realized that like that is not one of my strengths. I am terrible at marketing myself. I'm terrible at social media. Like that is not something I'm good at. So I think one of the things that I've learned as I've gotten older and as now that I've jumped back into working for myself is when you understand your own strengths and weaknesses, like all of these incredible women, my guess is you're not doing it 100% alone. You've hired someone to do your taxes, or you've hired a social media marketer, or you've talked to your friend who, has that connection on LinkedIn. Like sometimes I feel like you need to be okay with like I think it was Felicia that said like asking for help and knowing like, okay, I can't do this all on my own. And I do have limitations as far as my own skill set. I'm really good at X, but I'm really terrible at Y. So being able to kind of fill those gaps with like smart partnerships like I've done in the past, or other creative entrepreneurs, other women, like banding together to know that it sometimes takes a village to raise a little entrepreneurial baby in the same way it does an actual human baby. I think that that's really important too, because nobody's going at it alone. So I don't think anyone should feel like they have to try to tackle the entire thing alone, because you don't. So that's one of the things I've learned.
I'll just piggyback on that. I definitely say, remember your why. because when things get really hard, you can always come back to that, So really, really dial into like your why and why you're doing this, because you're gonna get so deep in, you're gonna be like, what? How did I get here? I'm in debt. I have, I'm trying to figure out my taxes with the state. Let it know I had to pay money. It's going to be complicated, but just get back to your why. I also would say, when it comes to opportunities, is this an offer I can't refuse? You don't have to say yes to everything. And sometimes when you're first getting started, you feel like you have to because it's like, okay, I need to put myself out there. But really, when you think about partnerships, when you think about panels, when you think about things you're going to show up at, make sure it's an offer that you can't refuse, or maybe ask yourself that question before saying yes. And I would just say be more space for grace. That's my last piece. Give yourself grace. It's okay to fail. I know society and I know jobs and will tell you that like, oh my God, that really be really critical of yourself, but give yourself some space. We're all learning. And nobody has all the right answers. And I'm sure all the panelists can tell you, I mean, we've all failed, in multiple ways and more than once. So just give yourself more space for grace. And that's it.
Yes, look at us ending on time. Thank you wow. Today blessed me, filled me, all the things as I knew it would, because women are so magical. And thank you to each of you, Priscilla, Felicia, Bonnie, Ariel, Erica. Thank you so much for carving out time. We do not take it lightly, for being vulnerable and sharing your expertise. I really hope something was said today that makes you think, challenge your perspective, inspires you, fills you, empowers you, because we need you. This economy needs you. The world needs you. Whatever your idea is, just take the risk. Just do it. The worst that can happen is you fail, and that is part of the process. Okay, like Felicia said. So thank you for showing up for yourself today and joining this panel, and I appreciate you. Please follow the CSU EA. We are doing about 2 or 3 more panels for the rest of the semester. I think we have a gaming panel. Haley, correct me if I'm wrong, gaming. We have office assistant and PA for entry-level roles so they can learn how to break into the industry. And I'm forgetting the last one, but they're great. Follow the CSU EA. Thank you so much for being here. Happy Friday and have a great weekend. Thank you all. Thank you.